Imagine clicking on a grainy cell phone video from years back and there she is, Jacinta Ngobese Zuma. The woman now synonymous with anti-foreigner marches, laughing into a camera and confessing she would happily cheat on her South African husband with a Nigerian man, her voice dripping with unrestrained desire. Then another clip surfaces, same Jacinta, different energy, eyes heavy with hurt, admitting that a Nigerian lover shattered her heart, left her bleeding emotionally and publicly humiliated.
I love Nigerian music. I love Nigerian people. I love Nigerian men. If I had to marry a South African man, I would cheat on him with a Nigerian man. Amen. Baby.
Apparently because I dated a Nigerian who broke my heart. I want you to know something, ne? And I want you, when you think of the name Jacinta, to think about this.
Fast forward to 2025, and she's on the front line of March on March, microphone replaced by a megaphone, leading crowds demanding Nigerians and other foreigners be rooted out of South African communities. If you think this is just another tale of a community activist, you're missing the psychological theater that turns personal wreckage into populist wildfire. Stay with me, because what I'm about to unpack will change the way you look at every protest you see. Jacinta Ngobese Zuma was born in KwaMashu, KwaZulu-Natal, on the 6th of July 1986, into a story already fractured by absence. Her mother had her very young, and her parents separated before she drew her first breath, political violence forcing her father's family to flee, leaving a void she would never fill. Raised by grandparents in the township, she internalized the template of fatherlessness, a psychological blueprint where male figures appear only as abandonment. She carved a name as a radio personality, DJ, MC, and voice-over artist, spending years hosting The Cruise on Vuma FM, crafting a persona that was fearless, flirty, and unapologetically raw. Her on-air charm earned her a loyal following across KZN, but behind the microphone her private life was assembling a time bomb whose shrapnel now cuts through the entire immigration debate. The two videos that resurfaced in 2024 and 2025 are now foundational texts in the Jacinta mythology. In the first, recorded years before March on March existed, she tells an interviewer or casual conversation partner that if she had a South African husband she would not hesitate to cheat on him with a Nigerian man, citing their allure, confidence, or physical attributes. The clip is explicit, almost gleeful, and it showcases a woman enthralled by the very foreign masculinity she now frames as predatory. In the second video, the tone has soured. She speaks of heartbreak, naming a Nigerian ex who left her devastated, some variants adding Igbo specifics and graphic humiliation. Her words coated in that unique mix of vulnerability and venom that only public heartbreak produces. These are not deepfakes, they are time-stamped, circulated across X, TikTok, and Facebook, and they have never been repudiated as inauthentic. Their existence shifts everything. What we are witnessing in her activism is not abstract ideology. It is the operatic replay of a woman's romantic biography, weaponized into civic dressage. Now, add the children. Before marrying lawyer Tolani Zuma in a grand August 2024 celebration at Princess Magorga Stadium, Jacinta had two kids, a daughter and a son, born years earlier, the fathers unnamed, faces erased from the public record. This detail is more than gossip. It mirrors her own origin story. A mother who raised children without a father in the picture, while the children grow up without their biological fathers visibly present. Absence begets absence. In psychological terms, we're looking at intergenerational father void, the kind that often seeds deep attachment injuries. When a woman with that background then experiences romantic betrayal by a man who represents the ultimate outsider, a Nigerian culturally coded as both hyper-masculine and socially suspect in South African xenophobic folklore, the collapse of idealization into devaluation is not just personal, it's archetypal. The Nigerian lover represents every man who left, her father, her children's fathers, and the state itself that failed to protect her. Fighting illegal foreigners becomes a reparative fantasy where she finally gets to control the departure, to kick out those who could otherwise abandon or humiliate. It's heartbreak politics, and it's astoundingly effective because it vibrates at the frequency of millions of South Africans who feel equally abandoned by government, economy, and the unfulfilled promises of 1994. Sarcasm demands an intervention here, because clearly the best way to heal a broken heart is to lead mobs to inspect spaza shops for valid paperwork. Who needs therapy when you can shout down a Malawian trader on a Tuesday afternoon? The logic is undeniable. Take the man who dumped you, scale it up to an entire nationality, and suddenly you're not a scorned lover, you're a national hero fighting for your people. It's the Cinderella story of political opportunism. Her radio exit in July 2025, after Vuma FM opted not to renew her independent contractor agreement, added fuel. The station cited routine lineup changes. She and her supporters blamed political pressure from figures allegedly threatened by her activism. Whispers even named the KZN Health MEC. What's factually solid is that after losing her radio platform, the activism intensified. Where once she reached thousands of listeners, she now commands national news cycles, social media armies, and street presence. The psychological need for an audience didn't vanish, it mutated. When your income and identity as a media personality are yanked away, the ego scrambles for a new stage, and populist movements offer exactly that. Instant relevance, adoring followers, donations, and a cause that validates all the anger. Whether she consciously engineered this or reflexively surfed the wave, the result is a masterclass in personal reinvention by proxy of public grievance. The numbers behind the movement's traction are brutal. South Africa's official unemployment rate hovered around 32%, expanding to over 42% under the expanded definition that includes discouraged work seekers, with youth unemployment catastrophically higher. The undocumented migrant population is pegged anywhere from 2 to 8 million depending on the source, with Home Affairs admitting massive documentation backlogs and porous borders. Violent crime is endemic, and while studies by organizations like the African Center for Migration and Society show that migrants both commit and are victims of crime, and that immigrant entrepreneurship often creates jobs, the township perception is one of zero-sum competition. Into this tinderbox steps Jacinta, with her radio-honed rhetoric and a personal backstory that adds emotional napalm. She didn't invent Operation Dudula's template, but she feminized and personalized it, giving it a media-savvy face that deflects some accusations of thuggery while keeping the message piercingly simple. South Africans first. Politically, the marriage of convenience shouts loud. She has endorsed Action SA's Herman Mashaba, shared podiums with the Patriotic Alliance, and marched alongside IFP figures when the geography suited. Her movement claims to be non-partisan, yet it functions as a street-level voter collection mechanism for parties whose anti-immigrant stances need grassroots ignition. Allegations of funding from political quarters remain unproven in a forensic sense, but the stench of proxy use is thick. Sarcasm once more. Nothing says independent civic movement, quite like marching next to politicians who'll be on the ballot a month later, all in the name of ordinary citizens. It's volunteer campaigning with extra melodrama. Psychologically, she embodies a phenomenon called identity fusion, the merging of personal self with a group identity to the point where threats to the group feel like threats to the self. Her absent father and distant children's fathers created a self-narrative of woman alone against the world. When a Nigerian lover then broke her heart, that personal abandonment fused with the collective narrative of foreigners taking our women, our jobs, our dignity. Leading the charge becomes a way of revising her own story. This time, she controls who stays and who goes. The violence of her rhetoric, suspected incitement charges hanging over her, public violence cases dragging through courts with her husband as her lawyer, is the illegitimate child of that inner rage. Every shop closure, every protester chanting her name, is a momentary victory over the man and the system that once made her feel powerless. It's a deeply wounded womb projecting its pain onto body politics. Observers note she keeps her private life tightly knotted. The fathers of her kids remain as invisible as her own father, a void, repeated, not spoken. Her current husband Tolani stands beside her legally and otherwise, representing her in court, which gives the entire operation a veneer of respectability, the loyal new man defending the warrior queen against the ghosts of foreign exes. The irony is rich. She found a South African man to marry and support her, yet the videos still show she once openly prized Nigerian lovers above South African ones. That tension alone must be psychic fuel. Every march is a performative renunciation of her former self, a public, "I have changed" message broadcast at decibels that drown out the whispers of her own past. Facts from migration research complicate the hero-villain binary. The World Bank and OECD have documented that immigrants in South Africa contribute positively to fiscal balances over the long term and fill crucial gaps in entrepreneurship. Xenophobic violence has claimed hundreds of lives since 2008, including the brutal killings of Nigerian nationals. March on March's operations, demanding papers, shutting down businesses, clashing with police, have led to injuries and deepened communal divides. While Jacinta claims she merely wants law enforcement of existing immigration legislation, the psychological undercurrents suggest the law is merely the language. The real agenda is exorcism. So what drives her, pain or principle? The truth is a bitter fusion of both. The heartbreak videos are factual entry points to understanding why Nigerians sit at the apex of her targets. The fatherless childhood gave her the armor. The children fathered by hidden men reinforced the pattern. The radio termination freed her time and ego for a bigger stage. The politics of a desperate nation gave her the script. And the internet's memory served up the receipts that make her personal contradictions impossible to ignore. The result is a psychological opera of displacement, revenge, and ambition dressed in humanitarian concern. It's Shakespeare on a dusty KZN street corner, with TikTok feeds as the chorus. If you want to keep dissecting the personalities who shape South Africa's fractious present, unpacking the psyche behind the politics, the hidden motives behind the megaphones, then smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. Does the authenticity of a movement crumble when its leader's history contradicts its message? Let's talk. The truth doesn't flinch, and neither do we.